Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of my sport designing series. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do a sport design. In this video, we're going to be taking my Stefan Diggs design here, and we are going to try and mimic it by recreating it. So let's start from all the way from the beginning here. Let's start from the background. Alright, we just have this blue background. What do? We make a new layer and we make a vignette. If you guys haven't seen my shadow tutorial, you guys will know how to do that. It's pretty easy. All you have to do is basically create a new layer, call it vignette. Also guys, there is a PSD link in the description below, so check that out if you guys want to follow along, which I recommend. So after I call it vignette, I will basically just sway it through just like this, just like that, and I would lower the opacity down just like that. And if you want, you guys can erase some if you want, and that's how I did the vignette there. So after I added the vignette, I have the background image. And basically what I did here is I lowered the opacity to 82 and I added a gradient map to make it red. And how I did that, let's delete this gradient map here. So this is how it looks like without the color. If I go to the blending modes here, go to color, it makes this cool effect. Now we're going to go to our adjustments tab here. We're going to go to gradient map, layers, go back to layers, right click, create clipping mask. What we're going to do is we're going to go to basics. We're going to go to this one right here. We're going to click on the white square, color, put it to red, press OK. There you go. And that's how you have your background. Originally it will look like this. What I did here is I erased, let's get black here. I erased the bottom part of this just so it looks more smoother, it looks more cleaner. And also what I did as well is I lowered down the gradient map to reveal more detail in the image here, because you can kind of see the difference when I have it at all the way at 100%. It shows no clouds, no nothing. If I lower the opacity, it shows more of the clouds and more color as well. So now after we do that, I'm gonna go to the Bills logo right here. What I did is I basically, originally it looks like this. When you get the PSD, when you're in the PSD, you're just going to scale it up, bring it down in the corner right here, put it to color, lower down the opacity to 22 or 27, and you should be good to go, just like that. Now, once we have it like that, we can now go to our text. Damn, bro. We can now go to our text here, and I'm gonna drop a font download in the link in the description below, so y'all can download the font. The font is Tungsten Condense. And what we did here, let's start off brand new. I basically made a text layer, used Tungsten Condense, did 1000, just like that, 1000, and then I duplicated it again. As you can see, we created this 100 right here in the background. I'm gonna teach you guys how to do that. Duplicate it again, put it behind the main 1000 layer, scale it up, go to my blending modes, go to color, and lowered down my opacity, just like that. And that's how we did 1000 text. And I also add a vignette to the 1000 layer, and you'll see why later on into the video. So when we now have our 1000 text. So now let's move on to the head and the subjects here. So the head, we have the left digs and the right digs. If you guys haven't checked out my video about player treatment, go check that out. But we're just going to do a quick little breakdown of what I did. So I did some shadows here with brightness and contrast, and I also lowered down the yellows because I feel like the yellows were too strong and I wanted to turn it down. Then after I did that, went to my left digs here, did my player treatment as usual. Selective color, brightness and contrast, hue and saturation, because I wanted to get rid of those tones. Shadows, brightness and contrast for the highlights. I did this to brighten up the image a little bit. The levels, highlights as well. I'm going to show you guys how to do that as well. So let's undo. I pretty much did that on all the layers here. So basically what I did is I went to levels, I went to my adjustments tab, went to levels, up this slider to the left, and then I up this slider to the right, and it creates this very overexposed layer on the subject. And basically what I do next, once you have that, you're gonna right click, go to blending options. Once you go to blending options, you're gonna go to underlying layer, make sure you're in blend if, and now hold alt on your keyboard and drag the right cursor to the left. Create this splitting effect. And you don't want to make sure it does this. You want to make sure you hold alt on your keyboard, drag the right cursor, and bring it down just like that, and press OK. Once I do that, I'm going to do Control I, invert the mask, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the highlights. Make sure your flow is around 14%. You're going to paint the highlights just like that. See, there's highlights right here. This whole entire space right here is highlights. Highlight. Maybe on the face, maybe just a little bit, maybe a little tap. And that's how I did that. And everything else is included in the player treatment video, so y'all can go check that out for yourself. I did the same thing to the right digs as well, and same thing to the full body digs as well. You guys can check out my shadow tutorial right here. Oh, and also, if you guys don't know how to get this stroke that I have around the players, pretty easy. All you have to do is you're gonna double click on your layer, your subject layer, go to stroke, or no, not stroke, not that one, but you can go to stroke, make sure your size is to 1, make sure your position is outside, blend normal, opacity 100, and make sure your color is at 100%. As you can see, it creates this stroke around the player, but I do not like how it's going over the legs and the feet here. So I'm just gonna right click on the stroke, right click, create layer, and it separates it. Oh my god. Go to your eraser tool, my fault. It's gonna replace it, or actually erase it from it being from the legs, just like that. Alright, now once we did that, I did my 1000 receiving yards text. You can see why I added the vignetting, because if it wasn't for the vignetting, this text wouldn't be that as visible, so I added a little bit of vignette on the text there. And then for the stroke on the players here, I added the 1000 stroke. I basically duplicated the 1000 text from here, make sure it positioned well, make sure it looked kind of like the same proportion, and I basically did it like this. So I did my stroke to 1 pixel, make sure the position is outside, blend normal, blend mode normal, color white, and then after I do that, it should look like this when you do that, but you're gonna put the fill all the way to 0 so it only shows the lines in the stroke only. Once I did that, I added the glows and the CCs. This is what makes the design pop. So let's start over from here. What I did right here is I did a selective color, went to blacks, and I upped the magenta. Just like that. I moved the slider down to at least 21. And then I upped the vibrance as well because I wanted a little bit more color in my design. And then I also did the glows as well. I'll teach you guys how to do that. So you're going to go to your adjustments tab here, solid color. Let's use blue for example. Maybe in the middle, just like that. Go into your layer mask, Control I. And then now, well, make sure your blending mode is on linear dodge as well. And now you're just gonna tap and click on the blues, just like that. Just gonna put glow right there, glow right here. And I pretty much did the same thing with the whites, the blues, the reds. Pretty much the same thing. Sometimes it could be too much, so you can lower it down a little bit. You can erase it a little bit if it's too much. That's how I did that. And then now it's time for camera raw. If you made it to the stage, congratulations. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna do Control Alt Shift E. Make sure you're on the top layer. Make sure there's no other layers that you're coming from. So you're gonna make sure you're on the top layer, the main priority, and you're gonna do Control Alt Shift E on your keyboard. And basically what that does, it merges all the layers just like that. Now let's go to camera raw filter. So usually what I do in camera raw, I usually put the clarity up, I put the texture up, vibrance, I'll put it to 46. Really want a lot of color. I'm gonna lower down the exposure because I feel like it's way too bright, so I'm gonna lower down just a little bit. Contrast up by as well. Color grading, this one's up to y'all. I usually do my midtones around the yellows, just a little bit, little tint right there. And then usually I kind of head towards the magenta because that's what I did for my selective color. So I'm gonna head towards the magenta there, just a little bit towards the pink. Then for the highlights, I'm gonna put a little bit of yellow in there as well. Not too up, but just like right there. And then I go to effects here, and then I lower down my vignetting. You can see what it does whenever you put the slider down left or right. So I'm gonna slide the slider to the left here, and it creates this effect, the vignette. Now I'm gonna go to curves. You can usually mess around in curves right here. I usually mess around in curves. I'm gonna just up the res just by a little bit, just like that. And then the blues as well. And then I'm gonna drag this curve. I usually do this in all my designs. I usually drag this curve up just by that much right there, output 10. And I go towards the middle here, drag it down, and then go towards up, and I drag it up. So kind of like up, down, up, technically. And then I press OK. And then I go to sharpen morph. You can see that it's way too much, so we're just gonna do unsharp mask. It's basically, unsharp mask is basically the reduced version of sharpen morph, so we're just gonna put it up to 56 and my radius to 1.0 pixels. And there you go. You have officially made your first design. Hope this helps y'all, and I'll see you guys in episode 4. Peace out.